Hi. I think we wait for maybe 4 or 5 till everyone turns up. I think there are about 100 people live right now. Yeah, 4 or 5, you guys can start. Sound good? Perfect.
Yes.
All right. See you guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rusav, and I'm a head of the Academics and Research Team, Indian Medical Association Medical Students Network. Today, I and my fellow team head, Misbah, will be hosting the event. We welcome you all on our first day of our workshop, Fundamentals of Research, held in collaboration with PubGeek. I present to you our speaker, Dr. Aniruddh Agrawal, an enthusiastic doctor who has written 20 plus research articles and has conducted 4 research workshops. He is also the founder of PubGeek. We are honored to have you here, sir, and are grateful for the efforts you are taking to educate us. Misbah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mohammed Misbah-Uddin, fellow team head of the Academics and Research team. We'll be starting, first of all, by addressing this issue, this question that most students have asked us repeatedly, that why join IMA-MSN? What is IMA-MSN? So we'll address that first. IMA-MSN is basically the full form, obviously, Indian Medical Association Medical Students Network. We are basically an offshoot of the Indian Medical Association, the students organization. Why join us? So obviously, firstly, to participate in activities of the Indian Medical Association Medical Students Network, to contest and vote for electing office bearers of IMA-MSN, to attend scientific, cultural, social activities of the affiliated branch states, and also to become a part of these and also have the opportunity to organize such cultural and social activities. Interested members will be involved in various social and cultural activities and national health programs, and such matter will be published to complete the objective. To participate in annual general party meetings and annual conventions, for concessional registration fee for members for the IMA-MSN to attend the local, state, and IMA headquarter conferences, which is subject to approval by respective bodies though. To participate in inter-college sports and other activities, concessions for IMA-MSN members for becoming life members for Indian Medical Association within 6 months of full registration with Medical Council, privilege to stay in the IMA houses in India as per the IMA rules. Members will be guided or aided by higher officials in case of any issues regarding their education, careers, etc. As a member student, you will be sensitized to activities conducted by the IMA by participating in events and gain knowledge regarding their future prospects, regarding their career, research, or any other employment aspects. The talent can be showcased through various media platforms by joining social media team, PR team, cultural team, academic and research team, etc. Workshops and events conducted by IMA-MSN Telangana will be exclusive for members, and they will be receiving certificates. This workshop is though an exception that all members who will attend all the 3 days will receive certificates. But other than this workshop, we usually have this trend where we provide certificates only to IMA-MSN members. And of course, you will have the tag of a member of IMA-MSN, which will definitely have a great value on your resume. So what are you waiting for? Join us. The registration is open. You can message either one of us, me or Rusab, or our coordinators, Zaveri and Romana, and we'll be guiding you through the process of joining this mighty organization. Also, whatever doubts or questions you have, please put them in the YouTube link chat box, and we'll be posing those questions to Dr. Aniruddh in the break time. Apart from that, Dr. Aniruddh, back to you. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to work with an organization like IMA-MSN. You guys have been a great help in organizing this workshop in the middle of lockdown. I'm sure you guys are struggling with your exams right now, and it's just great to see that so many people have taken time out of their busy schedules, more than 1,300 of y'all, to actually come here and listen to us and what we have to say. So without wasting any more of your precious time, let's dive right into the workshop that we're all here for. I'm just gonna allow me to share my screen so that I can start with this. Just give me a second. Yeah. Are you all able to see the screen? I think it's just loading.
Yes, we can see the screen.
All right, perfect. So welcome everyone to the 5-day workshop on the 3-day workshop on research methodology hosted by IMA-MSN in Telangana as well as PubGeek. We hope you are as excited as we are. After all, with over 1,400 delegates that wanted to be part of this workshop. I would think it's one of the biggest ones in the country that I've experienced, or at least I've been part of. So you must have heard this word PubGeek a lot during this whole while registration and maybe online. So just in short, we're just a free online community of medical students that are interested in performing research and being involved in research projects. It is made by medical students for medical students. So how we exactly work is connecting doctors who need medical students to volunteer for their research projects. Because as you know, they don't have a lot of time to work on their research projects because they have to see patients. So they need the help of medical students, and medical students in turn need help from these doctors because they don't exactly know how to proceed with such research. And that's what we aim to do. We have over 300 students now from all over the world, including the USA, UK, India, and they've all registered on the platform, and it's absolutely free registration on this platform. And we have already completed 3 research projects. One has been published already in an international peer-reviewed journal. and the other 2 have been submitted for approval in their respective peer-reviewed journals as well. So before we start, you might want to know who I am, why y'all should listen to me. I seem like quite a young guy to be delivering a speech to more than 480 people who are live right now. My name is Aniruddh Agrawal. I'm a graduate from Nair Hospital in Mumbai, and I'm the founder of PubGeek.co. I've been involved with research ever since the 12th grade. And that's in fact when I published my paper in a peer-reviewed journal for the first time. Since then, I've worked with multiple doctors across different specialties, ENT, spine surgeon, anesthesiologists, pediatric orthopedicians, on a number of research papers. So far, I have 22 articles published in index peer-reviewed journals, and have 5 more in the article review phase, 2 of them being from the PubGeek studies. I personally feel that Indian medical students are eager to perform research and just lack any focused, efficient avenues that teach them how to do the same. I mean, doesn't the sheer number of 1,300 people logging onto this platform resonate my opinions? Hence, I came up with PubGeek to help you guys learn how to do research, get involved with research, etc. So the main reason you guys are all here today at the workshop, the aim of this workshop is to help you learn how research is performed. And in turn, it should help you and motivate you to perform your own research. I understand when we think of research, we think about Dr. Salunke in a CID lab performing weird experimental tests, and we coming out with this great forensic answer to questions that the CID team possesses. But it doesn't have to be just that. We'll be focused on learning through example-driven sessions with myself and 2 honored expert guest speakers who have been part of their research fields all their professional lives. I'm not going to harp on about the importance of why you should do research, because I'm not trying to onboard you. You guys have onboarded yourselves by logging onto this platform. And therefore, I personally believe that research should not just be something one pursues for their USMLE, PLAB, CV, and just so that, it looks good on paper, but it's something that should be ingrained in your mind so that even when you're a consultant, you are keeping up with the responsibility of providing your patients with the best care available. So it really should be ingrained completely in your mind that the importance of research and why you should do research, right? So this is I shared it with you guys yesterday on the WhatsApp group. This is the basic sort of pointers that we'll be learning throughout this project, throughout this workshop. Selecting a research topic, how to gather, manage, and store data. I conducted a pre-workshop sort of survey before we started today, and I learned that most of you guys are from the first year or second year and have next to no experience in research. So I won't be going into the depths of statistics or into the depths of research writing. I will be touching on them so that you understand how papers are written and understand how to read papers whenever you need to. But since today we're gonna have you learn more about what is a research topic, how do you go about starting your own research, and just the basics of manuscript preparation and searching for articles. Over these 3 days, we'll be joined by 2 other speakers, Dr. Rujita, who will be joining us on Sunday. She is a consulted pediatric orthopedician and has been the president of the Bombay Orthopedic Society, and Dr. Parag Dhumane, who is a minimally invasive surgeon in Mumbai and has been involved with research since maybe 20 years and also has diplomas in patents and innovation in the medical field. And he'll be touching on the topics of, he'll be joining us today and tomorrow. Today, he'll be talking about how do you select a journal for your paper, or even when you're reading something, how do you go about selecting the journal, and which journals are predatory and stuff like that. We dive into the depths of it soon. Here are some recommendations to help all you guys get the most out of this workshop. Since we are a free platform, we request you not to take any videos of the contents and upload them. These videos will be available for a limited time on the PubGeek channel as well as the IMA-MSN channel. So do catch them on there. And all the material you see is copyrighted, and breaking it may attract any legal inquiries, but don't worry too much about that because I know that you guys are not going to do stuff like that, I hope. So, and if you have any questions during the module, simply take note of them and post them in the Q&A sessions. We have the chat available on the YouTube live comment box, and you guys can just post on there. My colleagues from the IMA-MSN team will take a note of them, ask me during the Q&A sessions, and if during the Q&A sessions y'all come up with any questions, please feel free to post them. I have the YouTube live open in front of me, so I'll be able to see any particular questions. And if you guys need to reach out to me, you can email me at ani@pubgeek.co, and I can try to help you with whatever you need. So hopefully by the end of this short course, you'll be able to prepare a focused subject-defined research question, understand any legal requirements to initiate your research, execute a plan to take your research from paper to the real world, know the basics of statistics involved in research. You guys are not going to be experts at statistics. Even I'm not. You probably need a MSc or a PhD degree to do that, but we'll understand how you can read a paper. You can understand the basics, steps that the researcher has taken that while writing the paper, so you won't be as confused when you're trying to figure out what exactly the paper is showing. You know which journal is ideal for you to publish, and you'll be able to explore other opportunities to do research as well. We're not trying to make this course filled with content that has no practical applications and no practical ramifications. We are actively avoiding boring you with details like what are qualitative and quantitative studies, what are case control studies, what are cohort studies. These will be covered adequately in your PSM biostatistics. And although they do play an important role when designing refined research protocols, you don't need an extensive knowledge in these technical aspects of research work when starting out in this world. Students already have a very boring perception of the research life. We do not want to give them any more reason to abhor it. Also, a lot of you had questions about how you'll be receiving the certificate for this 3-day workshop. You will receive a link at the start or at the end of every session. We haven't shared it today. I'll share it after we finish today, so you're not distracted from the presentation itself. You will mark your attendance on all 3 days. If you don't mark your attendance on day 1, day 2, and day 3, you won't be able to mark your attendance because certificates will be given to people only who have been present on the 3 days. I think that's fair. And the IMA-MSN team will be taking care of the certificates for you guys. It'll be an e-certificate. So we'll share all that on WhatsApp. Don't worry about that right now. I think what we should do right now is let's get started on this journey from making you an amateur researcher to a semi-pro, right? Any of you guys have any questions so far? Please post them on the YouTube comment section, please.
So there has been one question that how can we register to PubGeek and get connected with doctors to perform research?
All right. So PubGeek registration is free. You go to PubGeek, www.pubgeek.co. You can register yourself on the website. We have had 3 research projects so far. Unfortunately, as soon as we were getting our momentum, the COVID pandemic hit, and a lot of doctors weren't getting the patient volumes that they used to. Government hospitals in Bombay were getting maybe 7 patients compared to 200 in the OPD a day. So we'll be starting that very soon. As soon as the doctors that we have onboarded tell us that, hey, this is sort of the research project we're working on, and we'd love to get more students involved. So yeah, you can definitely register yourself. You can follow us on our Instagram page. I have a group, PubGeek research group, where we have around 2,000 students. I'll share the link for that at the end of the day. Yeah, but I think right now, let's just focus on why we're all here today, why we want to get started in this thing that we all call research, right? So let's focus on that right now. Let me just share my screen again. Perfect. All right. So our first topic of the series of lectures is what exactly is research? In the previous workshop I had conducted, I went into great detail of how to scan PubMed, how to write a research paper, how to assess journal impact factors. And at the end of the whole session, a first-year medical student got up and asked me, sir, I understood everything, but what is research? How do you do, what exactly is research? I understood how to scan everything, but what exactly is research? So I'm going to start with the level basic here, and I'm going to tell you all exactly what research is. You find tons of definitions to research. It's a careful consideration of study regarding a particular concern or problem using scientific methods. I know that sounds like jargon, but just hear me out for a second. So you'll find, even when you have to buy a new phone, right? What do? You ask your mom, hey mom, can I have a new phone? It costs $9,000 on Amazon. Your mom will say, okay. You search on Amazon, search Flipkart. Snapdeal doesn't exist, but search Snapdeal. Search on the company website. Search on go to a Chroma store and search there. So exactly what you're doing is you are researching what the best price for that phone is, right? So research essentially means getting information out from data, right? You are essentially giving new information to someone. It may even be yourself, from the basics, right? So, and on one hand, you're doing this phone research, and on the other hand, scientists are performing zero gravity experiments in space after spending billions of dollars and calling that research too. So what exactly is research, and how are we to define it? So for all biomedical aspects, it's essentially a careful study of a specific problem or even a solution, right? And why is it important? You must have seen, as with the recent COVID cases, the WHO is performing research and formulating the extent of the problem in different countries. If some countries have higher cases of COVID than others, they're trying to determine what is causing these countries to have these cases. Is it a different strain? Is it inept use of social distancing measures? Or they're essentially figuring out variables and trying to come down to the reason that's actually responsible, right? So again, you must have heard about the various drugs and vaccines that are being prepared for this disease. How does one determine that they will work or not? It's not the government of India that says, okay, remdesivir is effective in preventing COVID, or Coronil is effective in preventing COVID. This statement has to be met with certain facts backed by research done by ICMR or other institutes, right? So with research, what you're essentially trying to do is describe the extent of the problem and look for innovative ways of looking at a problem, right? So just to give you a number as to how many people are actually doing research and why it's important to do research, just only in Elsevier journals alone, not Springer, just Elsevier, we have 365,000 articles published, accepted for publishing every year, right? Just one publishing house. So that tells you that a lot of people in this world are doing research, and that's why we and the medical fraternity have so many drugs, so many instruments, so many ways of performing a particular surgery, and how we're stepping up from 0 to 1 to 5 to 10. Research won't take you from 0 to 100. Just because a paper says that smoking doesn't cause cancer doesn't mean we take it at face value, right? If the majority of the papers say that smoking causes cancer, then we will believe that result, right? So research is essentially you trying to figure out the answer to a particular question, whether it's where do I get this particular Nokia phone for the cheapest amount, or can plants grow on Mars, right? So you're essentially trying to find answers to a particular question that you're asking. So the myths of research is you need to be in a lab to do research. Not at all. You can do, there's something called wet and dry research. So wet research is usually performed in a lab, which we might or might not have access to. But you do not need to be in a lab to do research. You can very well perform clinical research, which is what most surgeons and most physicians do. You don't have to dedicate all your time to research. I understand that some states have different levels of difficulty in their MBBS curriculum papers, but you don't have to dedicate all your time to it. I personally dedicate about maybe an hour or two, three times a week, 3 days a week. And you don't need to be completely engrossed in it. You can, as with all things in life, you can split your time accordingly. You don't need a lot of experience to do your own research. That's absolutely a myth. I personally started my research in the 12th grade. So you will need help from a guide just to guide you through your basic research, but you don't need to completely rely on someone else for your information or for your project. You don't need lots of money to do research with today's tools that are available, Google Forms, or just simple, you can have your friends help you with your research and have their names on the research paper as well. So you don't need lots of money to do research. All right. And I don't need to do research even if I'm giving NEET. Well, tough luck, because you will definitely need to write a thesis at the end of the 3 years of your MS or MD degree. And a lot of residents have approached me for help in their thesis because they don't understand what the nitty-gritty of research is. And if you start early, say you start in the 2nd grade, by the time you reach the end of your MS or MD career, you're 6 years into research, you know exactly what's going on, how you can help your colleagues with the research, you can help your professors with research. So for those people who are doing NEET, I would say it's great that you're getting into research. It's something that not a lot of people are doing, and it'll be absolutely amazing if you can push out a few papers while you're doing this. So given the current political scenario, I thought it'd be appropriate to use a quote by M.D. Hurston, who was an author and ethnographic researcher who portrayed racial inequalities in America in the 1900s. Research is essentially just writing down in orderly fashion the things you are seeing around you or things that you are messing with around you. If you drink 3 cups of coffee a day, don't you go to the washroom more? Well, some scientists found that to be interesting and went on to research why this happened. And hence they found out that coffee was actually a diuretic, right? So it's just observing things that are right in front of you, writing them down in an orderly fashion, and then presenting them in a way which other people will understand, right? The only thing you need for landing on a research topic is have a question. The question can be about anything. Why do I get a headache after studying for 5 hours, but not after playing PUBG for 8 hours? Why does my toothache after having something cold? Why does my mom prefer my older or younger sibling more than me, right? It can be any question that you have. And while you're finding your answer, the process in which you find your answer is research. That answer may be pertinent, may not be pertinent to the particular question, but you just have to write everything in an orderly fashion, right? So this is just an example of how research works, right? I don't know if you guys have seen the Farhan Akhtar film of Rock On, where he asks, "Asma hai neela kyun, why is the sky is blue?" Right? Why is the sky blue? So we all know that the answer to this is due to scattering of light waves, yada yada. However, how do we know this? It's because someone way back in 1860s had the same question as to why the sky is blue, right? His name was John Tyndall. He wanted to find out why the sky was blue in the day and red at night. So he racked his brain, asked his teachers and colleagues, but they didn't know the answers. So he took it on himself to find out, and thus was born the Tyndall apparatus and early ideas of scattering. So when you have a question as to why the sky is blue, you go to various websites available or various books available, and you see what have others researched on this topic. Is previous research available? If it is, or if it isn't. If it is, then do their theories make sense to you? Is there some aspect that they might have overlooked? You have to understand that everyone is human. Some people are still disproving theories that Albert Einstein had come up with. So you can't, if you have something of importance that you feel that other people missed before you, you should definitely look into that. Your research will still be important in the field. And if you have certain aspects, you have to ask yourself whether it makes sense to me. If their theories make sense to you, and there's nothing that you have overlooked, and there's everything available on that particular topic, you understand that people have understood it mostly completely, and it makes sense to me. So then you move on to the next question, saying, why is the water wet, or pani gila gila kyun, right? So this is the general thing of how research essentially works. If there is enough research available, you don't have new ideas on that particular topic, it's better to move on to a next research question instead of working on that for maybe a year or 2 years and realizing that there's enough data already available and I'm not adding anything new to this particular question or this particular field. And if their theories don't make sense to you, you say, okay, I think I have new knowledge. Think about what you are trying to prove and how you can add to the already present information. This should be your research paper. If previous research is unavailable, you have to design an experiment based on your hypothesis of why the sky is blue. Is your hypothesis correct? Yes, no. If yes, awesome. If you've done your research and say that, okay, my hypothesis was correct, then you publish. If not, you should still publish. A lot of people have this idea that if you don't find, statistically significant results, you shouldn't publish. But that isn't actually the case, because someone else may have the same idea as you and may waste time with doing research in that same way. And if they find your paper and if they realize that, okay, someone's already done this before me, this idea did not prove to be useful and did not yield anything, it'll save the overall research time that doctors spend on all over the world, right? So in this, we spoke about a hypothesis, right? So what exactly is a hypothesis? It's basically a fact that you are trying to determine is right or wrong, okay? You're stating a fact in your hypothesis. So take an example, your hypothesis is salt has no effect on hypertension. You will then in your study try to prove that salt actually increases blood pressure in some people and may contribute to hypertension, right? So if you consider the previous example of why the sky is blue, your hypothesis cannot be the sky is blue because of scattering, and then you try to prove it, because it's basically impossible to prove an effect because of a call, right? You need to make your hypothesis in such a way that whatever evidence you provide is suggesting that the hypothesis is not true, right? So that is your evidence suggests that scattering in fact has some role in the sky being blue. So let's take another example, right? High salt consumption causes hypertension. So now the question of how a hypothesis must be framed. Consider you think that, hey, this salt is causing hypertension. I believe that it does so. I'm going to prove it. So then you take 10 people of equal height, weight, jobs, habits, everything. You give all of them 20 grams of salt every day and measure their daily BP, right? Now you get your result and you're happy. The average BP of this group has increased from say 130 systolic to 140 systolic. But in 3 people, there was no change in BP. In fact, it might have fallen. So now you were confused, right? So you perform your study with 10 people. BP increases in 7 people. You give 10 people enough salt, 20 grams of salt, the actual amount that is supposed to have usually is less than 5 grams. So you give them 20 grams of salt a day. You see that after maybe a month or 2 months, your BP increases in 7 people by maybe 10 systolic. But in 3 people, it's not increased at all, right? But the average still increases. So now, can you say that salt causes hypertension? Anyone with the answer? Is this enough to say that salt causes hypertension?
No, because the sample size is very low.
Oh, it doesn't matter on the sample size, right? If salt always causes hypertension, BP would change in these 3 people also, right? If they're of the same weight, same height, same job, same habits, if you have everything that you've given them is the same and 20 grams of salt, you can't say that salt causes hypertension, right? What, however, you can say is instead, if the hypothesis was high salt consumption does not cause hypertension, right? Instead of you saying high salt consumption causes hypertension, if you said it does not cause hypertension, right? You again perform a study with 10 people, BP increases in 7, no change in 3. Now you can say that, can you say that salt does not cause hypertension? Absolutely not. Right? Because here you have seen that the average BP of group increases and the BP increases in 7 people also. So although causation and effect is a very complicated thing in research, you can still say that salt has some effect on hypertension, but I cannot say that salt consumption definitely causes hypertension. This is the importance of framing your hypothesis, right? Proving something is inexplicably more difficult than disproving something. So here, if you say that high salt consumption does not cause hypertension, you're trying to disprove that. So you're showing in your results that yes, it has effect on BP, and yes, it will cause hypertension, right? So this is why a hypothesis must always be none, which means that your question should always be framed in a way that there is no association between two things that you're trying to study, so that your results, you can say that it is not true, right? So instead of you saying that, yes, salt definitely causes hypertension, you can say that, hello. So instead of you saying that salt definitely causes hypertension, you can say no, it's not true that salt has no effect on hypertension, right? Which means that it has an effect on hypertension. So that's just the basics of what a null hypothesis is, and how that's the reason why you frame your hypothesis in a null way, because proving something is extremely difficult, but disproving something is relatively easier and makes more sense, right? And that's why literature review is the most important. As I mentioned, the steps of how we would use salt and hypertension in our examples. We would earlier, if we don't know the answer, if you have, say, your dad or your mom has increased their salt consumption over the years, and you realize, okay, they have been having more and more of achar or whatever it is with their food, and their hypertension has increased. You're trying to figure, okay, maybe it's the salt if the rest of their diet is the same. And you go online. So the next step is not you taking 10 people, giving them salt, and trying to figure whether or not salt causes an effect on their BP. The next step is going online, seeing whether there is evidence related to this, whether other people have performed this research already, if they have used sound methodology in their research, and if they've already found the answer. If you find, I'm sure you will today, if you search salt and hypertension, you find maybe hundreds of research articles of the highest level of evidence indicating that there is a causative factor in salt and hypertension. So then if you perform your research with even, say, 200 people, it's going to be rejected by a journal because it's not new information. It's something that's already known in the community, right? So publishing research is not a complex task. You just have to write down what you found out using your hypothesis. It needs to be done in a systematic and standardized manner so that someone writing from India can understand something that's written in Brazil or maybe Denmark. So that's why there are certain nuances to it, which we go through in these 3 days. And it essentially allows other people to know exactly what you found out and what method you used. So that the whole principle of that is, if someone tries to replicate your research, they should come with the same results, right? If everything remains the same, the people that you used, the methodology that you use, the results should remain the same. That's the concept behind publishing in a systematic and standardized manner. So research doesn't just give you something to write on your CV. It improves a lot of things in your life, your time management, your problem solving, record keeping. It maintains your knowledge up to date. So there's this platform called Up to Date. I don't know if you guys know it, but it keeps you up to date with stuff that's happening within your circle or within your specialization. So you're never too far behind with a new drug that's come up. If a patient comes up, because nowadays patients are very well read in their particular research, and if they come up with question, you have that answer right with you, because you are the one who's performing this research. You are involved with those teams, and as you grow, you develop certain research teams with international doctors, with doctors in India, and you are the ones who are deciding the future of your specialties, and that's a very prestigious thing. And that's all that research can give you, whether or not you're doing your USMLE or your PLAB or anything of that sort. It helps you work in coordination with people from different fields of the study, and it really helps you get your name out there in your doctor circles. So there are some, if you are still not confident after the end of this workshop to starting your own research, you feel that, okay, I need some experience first, you can volunteer for any research programs in your parent college or others. You can leave your ego at the door, work on projects with your colleagues, even if it's a junior in your med school, it doesn't matter. If he has an interesting topic and you'd like to work on it, ask him. I'm sure he could use an extra helping hand. And you can, at least if you aren't determined to start your research yourself, you can keep updated with the latest literature in a particular subject and see if you can replicate any of those researches for an Indian population. And if you still run out of those, there are residents who are always working on their thesis and need help, and they would love a medical student to come in and do some work for them. And you can definitely learn from them or learn from their mentors who have to work with them. So you don't have to run around looking for mentors either. So research experience independently is linked to success as a physician. This is a conclusion of a paper in the Journal of American Medical Association. So don't just think of it as something on your CV. It helps you become a better practitioner. It helps you become more known practitioner in your circles, and it'll definitely help you reach whatever peak of research organization that you really want to. So this is the basic research pathway. We'll move on to the different types of publications that are there that you can get information from, whether you're reading it for your benefit or you are trying to work on your own research. You have to propose a research question. You have to find out information already present. And if you think that information is sufficient, you can add nothing more to that information. You abandon that question and work on a new one, or you can modify that question in a certain way. And then you can perform your experiment and you can publish your findings. This is the essential research pathway that we all follow, and seems fairly simple, and it is quite simple. And we'll start talking about the types of publication that are present, and then we move on to how to select a research topic. Meanwhile, if there are any questions that you guys have, you can post on this particular topic. You can post on the YouTube live while I change my slides. No questions so far.
There is one question that I can pose.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you.
What is the topic that I come up with already been researched?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you.
Hello. Yes, am I audible now?
Yes, Tanvi.
Yeah. So there was one question. What is the topic I come up with that's already been researched?
So if it's already been researched, depends on how extensive the research is. If there's just one research paper about it, and you think that you have more participants available, or if you have stronger research points or stronger hypothesis, and your hypothesis makes more sense, then you can definitely answer that research question. However, if there's a multitude of articles available from your local community, or even from your local city or state, and there's just a multitude of information available, it's better to either modify that question in a different way, which you learn about how to do that as we go on through the course of this workshop, or it's better to abandon that research for the time being until new ideas strike you, and move on to something that would yield more efficient results.
There has been another question, which has been repeated a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I find a research question, what should I do?
So you find a research question, what should you do?
Yeah, like how to find a research question.
Yeah, so how to find a research question, or you have a research question and what do you do next?
I think they're talking about you don't have a topic and how to choose a particular topic.
Okay, so we're gonna after we discuss the types of articles, we're gonna talk about how to choose a particular topic, how you can narrow your topic, how you can modify your topic. The types of articles is a short presentation where we just talk about the different types of articles that are available. So to give you an orientation while you're reading through journals, so that you're not confused as to, oh, is this something that I should read or something I should not? Is this important enough? Does this give me good level of evidence to answer my questions or not? So I think let's move on to the types of articles, and then we talk about how to narrow down on a research topic or a research question. So I will not go into the depths of case control, cohort, advantages, disadvantages, benefits, etc. They will be touched upon in the statistical sections in your PSM classrooms. This is just an example of what sort of articles that you can come across while performing your background literature, and provide you with a basic overview so that you're not confused when you do so. So the 6 basic types of articles that journals publish include the 6 you see before you. The most common ones are usually original research or original articles. You'll occasionally find a review article or a clinical trial or even a book review. As a medical student or even a resident, a clinical case study and original articles are the most important ones for you, because they provide a majority of the data that residents and medical students usually publish. So what exactly is an original article? It's a report by authors of a study that they have actually performed. Again, the researcher describes the hypothesis or the aims and objectives of the study that he, and then goes on to describe the methods that she used to assess that hypothesis. They interpret their results and discuss possible implications of their findings based on previous research that is done. They recommend new methods of research, etc. It's usually 3,000 to 4,000 words, giving in-depth details to the reviewer of a new concept or any update to previous concepts. So here are some examples of original research articles. Again, the sodium hypertension example. Cellular sodium concentration at vasoconstrictor state in hypertension, and sodium and potassium in central hypertension. These are 2 experimental studies that were done back in 1984 and 1981. Again, someone might have had the question that, okay, hey, I've increased my, I've not particularly gone through these research articles, but they essentially had a hypothesis as to whether sodium and potassium are involved in essential hypertension or not. And they went on to see 121 controls and 91 patients, and just to see whether it affected them or not. And this is an example of an original article where you set out with a hypothesis, you're trying to answer that hypothesis. So the most common type of articles, you are going to write most commonly these sort of articles in your career. And they are further divided into case, cohort, and cross-sectional. You don't need to know the depths, the in-depth understanding of cohort, case control, and cross-sectional. Cohort essentially means a group of people. That's what cohort means. And you've studied those group of people over time. Case control means you have taken a particular case and you've gone back trying to see, trying to compare what exposure they have had, which led them to being a case versus the controls. Cross-sectional essentially means you have taken a cross-section of the timeline and finding out certain details from patients at that particular time. So this is the basics of what these sort of 3 studies are. But usually there'll be enough in the methodology of the paper where you don't need to understand the in-depth meaning of these words. Again, review articles are, so essentially what they do is present the findings of multiple papers together to give a better idea on a topic. So review articles take, say, 20 original articles on a particular research, say salt and hypertension, and they will find out what the average of that 20 essentially is, or what today's understanding of salt and its effect on hypertension is, right? So, for example, some studies may have found that salt has no effect on blood pressure, and some may say that salt has extreme effect on blood pressure. So who to rely on? So the review articles are the ones that help you with this. Authors search all pertinent databases for all articles on a particular topic, and then they present this information in a review article with the overall finding and the average of all articles that exist in the database. So they will essentially give you the most information available out there at the time of their writing, because they have an analysis of most of the papers on that particular topic. Here are some examples of the review article which have been done in 2013 and 2014. The impact of sodium and potassium on hypertension risk, where they have taken a number of articles and they have essentially given you today's or 2014's knowledge of what exactly papers have shown and what is the trend that they have shown, right? Then you have something called case reports. They're basically unique cases that a researcher is highlighting. If a physician, doctor, researcher sees a case that he believes to be very interesting for other people in his field to know about, he makes a report of a case. It includes all essential information about the patient. Since the study is based on only one patient, the results are not meant to provide knowledge, but instead spark some curiosity, right? The examples are the full normalization of severe hypertension after parathyroidectomy. So as we all know, parathyroid and BP usually don't have too much to do with each other. Casual maintenance does not usually cause high or low BP. But this is a case report where they have said that the severe hypertension of a patient has been resolved after parathyroidectomy. So it would be quite interesting, and therefore it could spark more lab research or more clinical research into that particular topic, because it's something unique or something different that this group of surgeons, this group of doctors has found. And that's the main point of a case report, is to spark an association between things. It's not declaring that there's an association, but it's just to see they couldn't understand why this happened, or even if they could, it's not something that's been described before, and that's why they have published this as a case report, right? And again, the last sort of major types of articles are clinical trials, where it's as a singular study in itself is the most reliable source of information. While review articles depends on other articles for their research, clinical trials are actually trials done by the authors of that particular paper, and therefore they provide the most stringent sort of results, and it has to be performed with strict adherence to a pre-made protocol. So you can't go about changing who you're including in the study, who you're excluding from the study after you've started that study without permission of the institution ethics committee. It has to be registered with an online public registry at this particular website, and it requires a lot of investment in terms of money as well as time. It's usually rarely performed by medical students unless they're volunteering or assisting on it based in their institutions. It requires in-depth knowledge about a subject, the confounding variables, what essentially is the current information on a particular topic, and they follow strict consort checklists and guidelines, which journals will ask you to submit when you are submitting your paper for consideration for publication. It's basically any research project that prospective is something that means if you are starting your research today and you are taking in patients as time goes on. Retrospective means that you have already, say, performed surgery on the patients. You are going back and seeking information about them. So that's the difference between prospective and retrospective, where prospective means you are taking on patients as time go on. Retrospective means patients have already undergone surgery or undergone a particular intervention, and you are trying to get information about them backdated, right? So clinical trials are always prospectively assigned human participants, and they can be involved in particular intervention or comparison groups. And usually we can't have cause and effect relationships declared from our original articles because we don't meet these stringent guidelines. And however, clinical trials have appropriate controls, appropriate checklists and guidelines to make sure that there are no confounding variables, and therefore they can declare these cause and effect variables. So the interventions and clinical trials do not need to be limited to drugs or surgical procedures, but they can be various types, say education programs of whether an SAQ, LAQ type of question paper is better for learning, or is it an MCQ type of paper that's better? It can be for dietary intervention. It can be for tons of things. It does not need to be limited to drugs and surgical procedures. It's just something you need to invest that sort of money when you're trying to determine a cause and effect relationship between two things, right? Again, perspectives, commentary, and letter to editors are usually low evidence articles that you come across. Is essentially written by experts in their field. It's not based on research, but it's based on opinions of the experts in their field. So what journals will do is the editor will send an email to say the best doctor in cardiology that he deems in India, and he will say, okay, so what's your opinion on endoscopic CABG or endoscopic any other sort of cardiac intervention, and the person will give his opinion and his experience on that particular topic. So it's not research that he's performed. He doesn't have hard data to it, but it's usually his opinion on a particular article or a particular topic. So they can be interesting to read to see what experts have to say about these things. But it's usually not for too much interest in a medical student's career. It's more for residents and the like. So you might come across something called levels of evidence. So this is in order from most reliable to least reliable sources of information. So if you find these different types of articles saying salt and hypertension are related, you would rely most on the results obtained from systematic reviews, meta-analysis, or controlled trials, and least from case reports where a person has just reported, okay, I gave this person salt for 1 month, and this one person showed an increase in BP. Right. So this, I think, is pretty logical. You don't need to remember level 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just an order of most reliable to least reliable. So every medical college has a literature book where they show us what happened in that college for an entire year, right? Maybe the first years haven't gone to college this year, but hopefully you'll understand next year what this is. So your literature, basically your literature secretary of your college will ask students to send their poems, stories, etc. Then she will filter out what she thinks is bad and keep only the good ones in the college journal, right? Similarly, the scientific journals do that with their articles. Many people submit to these journals their particular research that they have conducted, and the journal editors and reviewers will then decide whether the methodology that you have used, the question that you have proposed, is it a good question? Is it something that people will be interested in knowing? If so, is your methodology sound? Have you done it in the best way you possibly could? Or have you done it in anything that doesn't light up any red flags? If so, then they will decide to publish it, right? It obviously has to meet certain formatting criteria that we'll talk about soon. But that's essentially what journals are. They are essentially your college diaries or books where a few people decide whether or not something is good enough for it to be published in that particular journal, right? So are all journals good then? Dr. Dhumane will touch on this topic in great depth, but I just want to touch on it so that amateur researchers understand what journals are and how they're relevant to scientific literature. Journals have become a very lucrative business with homegrown publishing companies starting their own journals, naming it International Journal of Medical Scientific Research, and inviting young medical students with very little experience in research to publish their articles for a small fee. Maybe it's 3,000, 4,000 rupees. And they have become a lucrative business, and many fake journals out there are promising quick publication, but don't be tempted. Dr. Dhumane will tell you exactly how to identify predatory journals and which journals is it worth putting your hard work research in, right? So any questions on this particular topic, or we will move on to how to determine a research question?
There are a few questions, actually.
Okay, do let me know.
The first one is how to get involved in research during this COVID time.
That's an interesting question. So what you can do in COVID is you can think about. So a lot of people, what a lot of people have done is worked on surveys in COVID, right? We talk about how you need to conduct your surveys. You can't just start a Google form and call it a questionnaire. A lot of people have been working on surveys because many people are just sitting at home. They have enough time to answer the surveys that you email them. A lot of people have framed questions, sometimes not so effective questions, and gone on to publish their data. But surveys are something you could definitely look at. If you're working in a COVID ward, you could approach your radiologist, or even if you're not working in a COVID ward, you could approach your medicine head of department and ask him, sir, this is the sort of research I'm planning based on your background research done on COVID, saying, so this is the sort of research done in the US. So we are seeing maybe 50 times more patients than that particular center. Why don't we work on this particular research? And that's something that you could definitely do. It doesn't mean that you would have to go into COVID wards and actually get data for yourself. If you have integrated HMIS in your hospital, or even if your HOD signs off on it, the residents who are very who are working in COVID wards would definitely love to have a paper published during this time. That's something you could definitely work on during this COVID time.
Then comes the second question.
Mm-hmm.
There's this question that has come up repeatedly. What if we don't have a mentor? And follow-up question is, how do we get to know doctors who are involved in research, socialize, and make them allow us to volunteer? So what if we don't have a mentor, and how to find them?
Okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, there's something called ResearchGate. It's a website which is essentially the equivalent of Facebook for the research community, where you can reach researchers who are involved in a particular topic, and you can get information from them about maybe new projects that they're working on, if you could help in any way. It works as the same way as you would with a job application, where if you apply to 1,000 people, maybe 10 will respond back. Or the simplest could be if you find a resident in the particular specialty that you are interested in and ask them, sir, who is the faculty who works on research from our department? I'm sure they'll be able to help you out with a particular professor or an HOD who is very akin to research, and they could definitely help you out. Or even if a resident, you can approach a resident and say, hey, sir, I need to work on this particular topic. I'm thinking of this particular topic. What's your opinion on it? Do you think we could do it in college? That's something that would help you kickstart your researching career.
Then there's another question. How can I do a research without How can I do a research without enrolling under projects like IMA-MSN?
Sorry?
Like they're asking that without enrolling into ICMR STS, how can I do my own research?
Oh, so ICMR STS, I personally believe is not it's a great program to get students into research. And I personally was rejected from ICMR STS in my first year. But don't let that bring you down. Like I said, you don't need a lot of money to do research, and ICMR also gives you, I think, 10,000 rupees a month for 2 months or something like that to perform your research. So that's not a life-changing amount. You need a lot of money, so you just need a person to guide you, right? And that could be online help through ResearchGate. You could find a particular mentor, or that could be through your college or any friends in your surrounding colleges who have professors working on any research topic that you are interested in. So don't limit yourself to your own college. You can ask your friends who are studying in colleges around you, and see if there is any particular research akin faculty there. So yeah, don't let rejection from ICMR STS bring you down. It is a great project. Obviously, they have a limited capacity there. They can't give everyone a research opportunity because they are also giving money. But absolutely, you can work on a ton of other things like I haven't done an ICMR STS project, but that's definitely not something that you should worry about too much.
This one last question.
Sure.
Does a researcher need the help of a data analyst?
Yes. So it depends on what sort of research you're doing. If you're doing some basic survey sort of research, you usually don't. But you usually will need someone who has basics in statistics and knows how to operate, say, R or SPSS platforms. So yeah, it's usually good to have a statistician in your research design. You could definitely approach your PSM. You could definitely approach your PSM department, or you could even talk to residents, because they usually need a statistician for their research, or for their thesis. So they will definitely be in contact with someone who has information regarding this and who could help you out with your paper. So yeah, you could definitely do that.
Thank you, Doctor. I think that's it.
Perfect.
For this session.
So, all right, so let's start with selecting a research topic and how picking your topic actually is research. Just give me a second here. So when you're selecting your topic, do consider it as research itself. You can keep your mind open. Don't jump directly to a research question just because you heard it in a lecture or read it in a newspaper. Before you embark on your research journey, it's important for you to fully understand your topic and make sure that the time you put into it will yield results. To do this, you need to be flexible, both in your research area and in the focus topic. You should decide whether you want to approach it a clinical topic or a laboratory research, or you want and what sort of you want to consult an expert, you want to do some background research, and you want to identify novel and feasible ideas. So just because if today you've read about depression in medical students in India in the newspaper, don't jump to, okay, I want to do a study about this. This seems like a very hot topic right now. Don't do that. Just uh, be flexible in your approach. Um, Identify a broad research area that you find yourself interested in. Consider you're interested in psychology. Don't directly jump to a research study evaluating this depression in students. Evaluate all potential research areas that you may be interested in. Identify one or two particular fields. Say you're interested in medicine, or you're interested in surgery or pharmacology, or and one or two particular organ systems or subspecialties like intestine, liver, cardiac, neurological. This will allow you to limit your focus on one or two important fields that you want, thus preventing a concoction of thoughts that in the end will confuse and demotivate you, right? So you want to identify a particular subject. It can be more than one, right? But preferably, say you want to do dermatology, or you want to have a such study in pathology. So you identify that, okay, this is the subject I want to study in. You identify maybe one or two organ systems, say liver pathology. You learn about it. I'm sure you guys, most of you are second year MBBS students. You understand cirrhosis, maybe the causes of cirrhosis, and then you approach someone, even a resident or a faculty from your college or a different college, and you ask, sir, hey, this is the study that I'm doing. If you don't have access to a faculty, you can go online and search what the current research in cirrhosis is all over the world. See if you can replicate it over here. If it's feasible for you as a medical student to do. So yeah, so speak to experts, approach your faculty, write emails to people who you know are in the field. With ResearchGate, you get access to writing people messages like the LinkedIn or Facebook of research community. It's not uncommon to find individuals who will motivate you to perform research in a particular topic and guide you along the way, because medical students have a limited understanding of a subject that may need in-depth knowledge. It's best to have someone on your team that could prevent you from making any mistakes that would result in wasted time and money on a research project. People usually think that a guide on research projects is only for guiding you through the research that you want to do, but what people often forget is that their ultimate utility is to lead you to an ideal research topic. So the best way for you to approach a guide is not by telling them, okay, I have this particular idea in this very specific topic that I want to do. You could ask them, sir or ma'am, what are topics that you think I could do as a student? And maybe they come up with 5, you find 2 feasible and you work on them. You could even approach them with your ideas, but make sure they give you a few ideas in return, so that because they will understand what's feasible for you as a medical student to do in that particular college, right? Another way to be more equipped before you approach your guide is to perform a thorough search on the internet. You can identify some articles that have gained a lot of traction and do those studies with your own modifications, or improve on them and approach your guide with a variety of study talks which will allow a faster adaptation of a topic, right? So if you see um, 5 different sort of studies done in the field of cirrhosis of liver in pathology, you could and you could approach your guide with, say, 7 to 8 different topics, including 3 of your own ideas, saying these are the options that we particularly have, and what do you think? Is there anything else we could do, or um, is there something from these 8 that interests you, right? So this is a short video about explaining about how picking your topic is research. Just let me know if you guys can hear it.
Meet Jenny. Jenny has a research project.
Can you hear it?
Yes,
IMA
sir.
team? All right, perfect.
Yes.
Due in a few days. She picked a topic when her professor first assigned the project. She chose her favorite TV show, Bridezillas. It seemed like a good idea. But now that she's doing her research, she's having a lot of trouble finding sources. She's freaking out. Jenny's problem started with her mental model of the research process, which she sees as a one-way street. Like many students, Jenny thinks that once a project is assigned, she should pick her topic right away. Then she can move on to finding sources and reading through them. And once she has all her sources, she can start writing her paper. But the research process is a lot messier than that, and picking your topic is intertwined with finding and reading sources, and writing and editing your paper. Picking your topic is research. When you first pick a research topic, it isn't set in stone. It's just an idea that you test with some exploratory research. If it looks good, you find and read some more sources. At this point, you might find that the published research leads you away from your original topic. That's okay. You can let the research you find guide you and tweak your topic a bit. And by the time you've gone through this cycle a few times, you may find that you have enough sources to start writing and editing your paper. Even then, as you're writing, you may find that you need to pull in additional pieces of information, and you may return to the research cycle. So, let's wind back the clock for Jenny, bringing her back to the day her professor assigned this project, and allow her to do it again with this research model. Again, Jenny picks a topic that is interesting to her, the reality TV show Bridezillas. As she tests the topic with some internet research and in article databases, she discovers that there is lots written about it in the popular press, but not much scholarly research which her professor requires. Realizing that maybe her topic is a bit too narrowly defined, Jenny decides to tweak it by broadening her scope to reality TV in general. But when she tests this new topic, she winds up drowning in a sea of research, all of which has to do with reality TV, but doesn't tie together to help her form a coherent thesis. Back at the drawing board, she wonders if there's a happy medium between Bridezillas, which is too narrow a topic, and reality TV, which is too broad. Since Bridezillas is just one of several reality TV shows about brides and weddings, perhaps there's more written about this subgenre. Testing this topic in some of the library's research databases yields a promising but not overwhelming number of results. Instead of realizing too late that her topic was unresearchable, Jenny built in the time to test and tweak her topic, so she could take her original idea and shape it into a topic that she still finds interesting, and can realistically use for a short research assignment.
So essentially, I know this doesn't apply to medical research, but in the US and UK, they usually have papers that students have to write. So, but this gives a good example of why you should not start out with a particular topic in mind, and why you should always go back and do some background or preliminary research, and try and test and tweak your topic, even if you don't have access to a guide, and understand whether or not it's doable, and if there is already enough information. If not, what information is missing, maybe you can add on to that through your research, right? So that's why picking a particular topic should take you the most time, and not actually doing the research, because it's it's what you're going to be working on throughout, maybe even if it's a short, maybe 3-4 months, whatever it is. So that should be your first calling, and you should definitely select a particular topic only after you've confirmed that it is viable and you are likely to get results that would be important for the general community, right? So again, this is a very short video about choosing a manageable research topic and avoiding any pitfalls. I
Choosing a
think this really help you
manageable
guys out.
research topic, avoiding pitfalls. Is a monster topic out to get you? Beginning researchers often pick a broad, general topic, thinking that big topics are easier to research. But some topics are just too big. Consider these examples: global warming, eating disorders, physical fitness, media violence. It's too much! Problems with big topics. You cannot adequately cover a large topic in a brief paper. You will be overwhelmed with research material. You cannot research or write about a topic if you cannot define it clearly. Solution: ask questions: who, what, where, when, how. For the topic benefits of exercise, ask who might benefit, such as women, smokers, overweight children, the elderly. Ask what kind of benefits, such as lose weight, improve mental awareness, reduce stress, lower blood pressure. Now that big topic becomes smaller. Can exercise improve memory and cognition in the elderly? To narrow your topic, focus on a single event, a specific group, a limited time period, one cause or effect, one argument or viewpoint. For the topic death penalty, focus on an argument or viewpoint. Is the death penalty a form of cruel and unusual punishment? For the topic voting, focus on a group of people. Are there gender differences in American voting patterns? For the topic eating disorders, focus on cause or effect. Do genetics contribute to anorexia nervosa? Of course, some topics are too small, making published information difficult or impossible to find. Topic: how do Martians in the Inland Empire cope with the stress of being chased by ravenous topic monsters? The focus is too tight. A specific group in specific place with a specific condition and a specific psychological effect. If your topic is too small, try removing or broadening some of the specific conditions, but be careful not to make the topic too broad again, or you may end up like our Martian friend. Activity.
So I hope that video was helpful, and although it may seem a little kiddish, but it essentially allows you to frame your research topic in a way that that is manageable, right? So you ask who, what, why, when, where, and if it becomes too specific, you remove maybe where, or you remove who, and you have a particular topic that is approachable, that is easily executed, and it basically allows you to move on to writing your research, right? So what you need to do is select a subtopic or field in that subject area. Like we spoke about cirrhosis and say liver cancer. Or for example, if you choose to study college goers, your topic could be evaluating some sort of relationship between physical activity in college goers and its effect on different factors. So in order to further focus down your research, you will need to convert your research topic into a research question, right? So once you moved on from a broad subject to a narrow topic, you can move on to a research question. So you don't need to define your question in the start. You just need to identify your topic. So if your topic is, I want to do something relating to physical activity and people who are going to college and its effect on different factors, say depression or academics or just the amount of testosterone in their body, my topic would then become physical activity and its effect on different factors, right? So Before we move on to research questions, let's see if you have understood what a just right research topic should be. I'm going to be making this slide window in half so that you guys don't see the answers. And yeah, 1 second. Yeah, so the first one, please write your opinions in the YouTube comment section. Rehabilitation for brain injuries. Do you guys think it's too broad, too narrow, or just right? Yeah, whoever's saying broad is absolutely right. Because as you may have remembered from the video, we aren't answering the question who, what, why, when, where. No questions are being answered here, right? What about the second one? Mirror therapy for brain injured or stroke patients with partial paralysis. What do you guys say? Is it too broad? Is it too narrow? Or is it just right? Okay, so a lot of people have different answers here, but it's absolutely it's actually a very right question because you're answering. So instead of saying rehabilitation for brain injuries, the rehabilitation that you're giving people is mirrored therapy, right? And the brain injuries you are defining here are stroke patients with partial paralysis, right? So this topic essentially is a narrower version of the first one, and it's absolutely appropriate, efficient research for you to pursue. How about health benefits of whole grains in a person's diet? Just give me 1 second. So health benefits for whole grains in a person's diet is actually it's a very vague topic, right? Oops. Yeah, so health benefits for a person in a whole grain in a person's diet is actually a very vague topic, right? Because you are not defining what sort of health benefits you're giving that person. What sort of whole grains are you using, even if you're using whole grains? And in a person, it can be anyone from, say, a child or someone who's above 60 or an elderly person, right? So it's not exactly a right topic. It is too broad because you're not answering the main questions of who, what, why, when, where, right? And what about do second year medical students of Nair Hospital have major depressive disorder? What do you guys think about that? So when you're trying to determine a narrow topic, when you're trying to determine whether a topic is too narrow or not, you need to understand whether or not it will provide utility to someone who's reading it. So will it make a difference to someone sitting in, say, Telangana or Hyderabad, uh, uh, if second year medical students of a particular hospital in a particular city have a major depressive disorder or not? So you shouldn't make your topic too narrow. If you say medical students suffering from major depressive disorder in, say, Bombay, or even in a particular state, then that would yield information to someone who's reading it. But in a particular year, in a particular hospital, with maybe a 50 to 60 sample size to determine whether or not they have major depression or not would not be a very effective research, and you would essentially be writing a paper which journals would usually not accept, right? So I hope you've understood the basics of whether a topic is too narrow or too broad. So now you've graduated from understanding what a research topic is to move on to determining what the next step is in starting off your research. So once you have established your topic, consider you want to do something with respect to stress and athletic performance among college students. You then need to identify a particular research question that would highlight the outcome you are trying to evaluate. For example, if your topic is stress and athletic performance among college students, right? Your research question could be framed in different ways. It could be, what is the relationship with stress and athletic performance? Do college athletes experience greater levels of stress than other college students? How do college athletes cope with stress? So although your topic is related to stress and athletic performance among college athletes, you could frame your question in different ways, which would give different answers to people, right? So that's the essential difference between a topic and a question, where a topic is a broad area of research that interests you and you have to identify before you start on that journey of research. And the research question is the specific aims and objectives that you're trying to evaluate with the question you're asking, right? I hope this is clear to you guys so far. So therefore, the overall approach needs to be like a funnel. Start broad with establishing a subject in medicine. Move on to, sorry, just give me a second. Move on to establishing subtopics, then formulate a research question. For example, a study that I performed in the 12th grade, I took a similar approach. I started with wanting to do something with respect to health status in Indian youth, as I had seen many people being overweight in my school and not so many in the 11th and 12th government aided college that I went to. I went to a dietitian and I took her advice on who I should approach, what I should ask them, and how I should go about doing this. After a thorough background research and discussion, I was able to formulate a question of whether students of age 10 and 14 were more unhealthy in private schools or public schools. So this is the research article that I came up with. It's been published in a peer-reviewed journal. Yeah, it's been published in a peer-reviewed journal, and this is what we came up with. Is we're trying to compare the nutrition status of private and public students of ages 10 and 14 in Mumbai, and why 10 and 14, you may ask, because we found our background research said that the BMI is mostly unstable between 10 and 14 during the period of puberty between girls and boys. So although this could be considered as too narrow a topic, however, it is talking about, it's not taken from a particular college. It's talking about a city in India. And we are talking about general nutritional status and not about, say, weight, which would have no particular significance to anyone involved. But because it's a comparison between a private and public school, it makes it a pertinent topic, especially in India. And just for those who are interested, we found out that people in public schools were actually in the healthier BMI than private schools. They were not as underweight as we thought they'd be. But yeah, so this may be considered as a too narrow a topic. However, since it was a pertinent topic and it's a comparison and not just the nutritional status in just private schools in Bombay, it could still be considered as an appropriate topic. So just like I had identified what sort of people I'll be approaching. There'll be private and public students. Who would I be approaching? Ages 10 and 14. Where would I be approaching in Bombay? We'd have to identify who, what, where, when, why. And as you step away from that, if you think that it's becoming too specific, you can remove certain questions from your research. Just remove when or where or when from your research question. And you can appropriately identify your target population, your target outcomes, and overall have a more focused idea on what you want to do and get out of your research. So you can gather background information for identifying potential topics, identifying sources to gather information, evaluate key issues related to your topic. Your background research will help you identify some controversial issues that may be present in the research community on that particular topic. And you can formulate a research question and then evaluate it. And after you have formulated such a question, you have to ask yourself whether your question is clear, is it focused, or is it too complex? Yeah. So here are some examples of topics and questions. What are the causes of sprains in the athletes? Right, that's a research topic. I want to identify sprains in athletes, but I have to add certain specific questions to it. So I will ask, what are the common risk factors for ankle sprains in adult athletes? So I've identified what, and I've identified who, right? So this would be of potential interest to someone. What are the best treatments for itching in hospitalized patients? Instead, I would say comparison of 2 or more topical agents for effectiveness in reducing pluriceps pruritus. Instead of saying, so when your research topic is pet therapy for a 5-year-old autistic child, your question framed from that topic could be, does pet therapy provide benefits in social interaction and learning in children on the autism disorder spectrum, etc. Right? So you want to make sure your question is focused enough. Make sure you are taking on a project that is feasible. For example, if we continue the example of stress and athletic performance, measuring stress levels of each and every athlete every day is not feasible, right? Or even taking an extensive 20-minute interview to evaluate stress levels of a student in one college is not feasible. Tips on feasibility can be taken from your guide. They usually have done their research. They've been involved in research for thesis for many residents. So you can ask them whether or not this is feasible. And usually feasibility can be a common sense idea depending on your budget and on your resources available in your department. So you need to determine your funding sources and requirements, if any. This prevents an unnecessary stop to the research project at a later date. So once you have identified your research question, if you have to maybe download a particular software which costs 7,000-8,000 rupees, or identify certain access to certain articles that you will need that may cost another 5,000-6,000 rupees. We talk about how you can get articles for free over the next 2 days. But if you need to identify how much funding requirement there will be, and what your sources are, and if not, you need to tweak your project and your question accordingly, so that there is no unnecessary stop to your research at a later date where you just run out of money and you're left with wasted 3 months of your life, right? So, and although novelty and interest to audience do play a small part in finalizing your question, their importance is way down the list. The first 3 F's are the most important while finalizing your decision. So finalizing your question is focus. Is your question focused enough where it will provide interesting results to someone who's reading it, whether it's feasible. Like I said, it won't be possible for you to take blood collection from a patient every 15 minutes to see his adrenaline level. You can't do that for over 100 patients if you're the only one who's doing it, right? So you need to identify feasibility, and if you have enough funding for any and all expenses that you may be facing, so that you're not left with 3 or 4 months stuck after you've planned your whole research, right? So once you've established a research question, make sure it's clear. So instead of saying, why are social networking sites harmful? You can make it clear by saying, how are online users experiencing or addressing privacy issues on social networking sites like MySpace and Facebook? Again, it's who, what, why, when, where. You're making it more clear to someone who's just reading the title of your paper, or just reading your aims and objectives to see whether or not the paper you have written is pertinent to them or not. Again, instead of saying what is the effect on the environment from global warming, you can reframe that question and say, how is glacial melting affecting penguins in Antarctica, where glacial melting is a result of global warming, and how it's affecting the environment, that's the penguins in Antarctica. And instead of it being a too simple a question saying how are doctors addressing diabetes in India. You can make it complex enough by asking what are the common traits of people suffering from diabetes and how can they be addressed by physicians to prevent the disease, right? So as you mentioned earlier, some wrong ways to start off research include thinking of a focused topic very early on in your research, making a Google form and sending it out on Facebook and WhatsApp, requesting friends and family to answer questions for your research project. This is what differentiates medical research from a marketing research campaign. We as medical students and as future doctors need to be organized in our thoughts. We need to establish specific questions and then take expert guidance to move on to answering our questions. Just because a topic is interesting or new to you does not mean that it's interesting or new in the medical literature. Therefore, before realizing the futility of your efforts at a later date, it's better to perform your background research and then move on to spending your precious time in conducting your research. Because as most of you all have mentioned in the pre-conference, pre-workshop survey that we had, most of you are struggling with time and think that it takes too much time to do research. So you don't want to waste your precious time on failed research, right? So in order to settle on a research topic or question, it's very important to understand the chronology which you have to follow. You have to select a research topic you are interested in, perform thorough literature analysis. After you have performed this analysis, you will need to go back and tweak your research topic or tweak your research question. After you have finalized that, you determine your objectives of your research, confirm feasibility and all funding requirements, form a research question, and take help from a guide if a topic is unfamiliar, right? So it's this is essentially what's important for you in starting off your research. I hope it's clear enough for everyone here. Are there any questions on any of the topics that we spoke so far? Because Dr. Parag is going to be joining us in 10 to 15 minutes, and he'll be talking about how to select your journals and what exactly is patenting and innovation in the medical field. So if you guys have any questions, I'd love to field them.
Yeah, there are two questions. First of them, other than MD, MS, DNB, etc., for an MBBS graduate, what are other avenues for a research-oriented further study and career? Basically, other than MD, DNB, MS, etc., for an MBBS graduate, what are other options in India to pursue a research-based career?
A research-based career can be pursued by, DNB, MS, MD aren't research-based careers anyways. They are mostly for people who want to practice medicine and MS, practice medicine and surgery. But it's basically, you can pursue a PhD or you can pursue an MSc, you can pursue any sort of scientific or basic science degree that you really want to. But what I personally feel is if you are interested in practicing medicine, you don't need to step away from this medical life and start doing research, start doing basic research, unless you're really interested in that, because that's awesome. But yeah, you can pursue so MSc, PhD. There are institutes like the TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, that provide opportunities to students who really are interested in research. But yeah, you could go either way. I've known people who after DNB or MS have given up and taken career paths which have involved just research. The head of the Lilavati Hospital in Mumbai, the head of research there has 2 MD degrees in medicine and PSM, and an LLB and an MBA, and he has just devoted his life to research. So yeah, you don't need to take a particular path to do research. You can do it while you're studying anything, but if you want a formalized degree in that, you can take a PhD, MSc, BSc, whatever you'd like.
Another question regarding funding. For medical students who are just in second year, it's obviously difficult to find funding. So Absolutely. What are different ways in which, or maybe are there any platforms that support research by medical students?
Right. So there are a number of sponsorship opportunities that usually sometimes maybe companies or these institutes offer. So what I'll do is I'll share an article on the WhatsApp group that'll make life easier for everyone instead of talking about each of them here. So that it'll make life easier. But like I said, you don't need a lot of money to do research though. It shouldn't be the barrier that you are facing. You can always tweak your research question according to whatever funding you have available. Yeah.
There's one more question. Can we reframe the question based on the results?
Okay, so usually how research works is you have a research protocol set, right? And you submit that research protocol to an ethics committee. And the ethics committee, although it says ethics committee, they will change or they will modify your methodology to make it more efficient. And you have to follow that methodology and then come to your results. Because you can't go backwards, right? You can't say, okay, I have found this. So if you just find a particular result that's appealing to you, you can't go back and say, oh yeah, I intended to find this result only. That becomes unethical. But that's the usual way that a particular research paper is, constructed and built. So you already have to hand in your protocol to your ethics committee, which they will approve, and then you work on your research. So you usually can't go back and change your research question, because that definitely would be unethical. Because I don't know if you guys know, those people who are studying maybe in the 3rd or 4th year, we talk about a p-value, right, which is the probability value, which basically means if a p-value is less than 0.05, we say that there is less than 5% chance of this particular correlation or this particular result being found due to chance or due to random issues. So if you're collecting 100 things, right, what that 5% means is that 5 times out of 100, you'll find that there is a correlation, say, between heat and hypertension, right, when it doesn't exist, right? So that adds into depths of statistics, but usually you should not do that because it's unethical, and you are bound, if you're collecting 1,000 different things, you are bound to find 50 of them with correlations that actually don't exist. So that's just the law of numbers and how statistics works. But yeah, you should definitely not do that, and it would definitely be unethical.
There's another question. Can we do meta-analysis or review kind of research, since we can't reach out to patients during this lockdown?
See, there are 2 types of review articles. Okay, there is a systematic review, and there is a meta-analysis. So meta-analysis requires in-depth knowledge of statistics, logistic regression, linear regression, and multivariate regression, which would be very hard for a medical student to possess and to master over a month or 2. So I would personally stay away from meta-analysis. And the issue with systematic reviews is you want your article published in a good journal, as Dr. Parag will tell us shortly. Systematic reviews from medical students usually will not be accepted by most of your top journals. So although it is something you can explore and you can read articles for your interest, it's not something I would recommend spending your time on, because the top tier journals usually will not accept your articles of a systematic review. And meta-analysis, unless you possess an in-depth knowledge of regression, is very difficult to, it's impossible to have a meta-analysis without regression analysis. So yeah, if you have enough time to master statistics or just basic regression in maybe 3 or 4 months, definitely go about doing it. But usually you need a proper statistician with you, and if you have that, then definitely you can go ahead with a meta-analysis. But if you don't, then I would recommend staying away from it, because it's better to not publish research than publish research which can later come to bite you in the butt, right? So yeah, that's my opinion. But yeah.
There are a few more questions. What to do if a journal rejects your research paper?
So if a journal rejects your research paper, it's a part and parcel of research publication. You move on to the next journal. There are a few sites which we talk about tomorrow and day after, which help you analyze what sort of journals you can publish to, which would probably be easier to publish in. So I don't think you should worry too much about that. It may be disheartening, but it should not stop you from publishing your research in other journals. So that's not something I would definitely worry about.
Is there any software which we can learn and that will help us, in collecting research data? Any particular software?
So there's a software in statistics. It's called SPSS. However, to I would say interpret the data and know which test to perform, you'll need a knowledge of advanced statistics. Not for basic tests like the t-test and stuff, but otherwise for regression and say non-parametric tests, you'd require a sort of in-depth knowledge of statistics, which I would recommend starters to stay away from it for now until you maybe read some books on basics of medical statistics, and then you go on to explore that. Then you go on to explore that particular software. But yeah. So I think, yeah. So do we want to get Dr. Dhumane on? Rusab, could you call him and we'll get him on?
Sure.
Until then, I'll just talk about just the basics of how about we can just discuss a particular paper that I have written. How's that? Let's see. Yeah, let's go. Okay, I'll share my screen. Yeah. So this is a paper that I had written back in, when was this? I don't even remember. Maybe a year or two ago, with my friend Adit from the Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine in Philadelphia. In Scranton, Pennsylvania. And it was essentially what we tried to do was, it was something, yeah, this is something that someone can possibly do during COVID. What we tried to do was link particular microRNAs with HCV infections, and to determine, so, okay, it's a little complicated topic. So a lot of people might not know, but if you have a hepatitis C virus infection, it can lead to insulin resistance and therefore lead to diabetes in patients, right? So what is the cause for this to happen, right? Why should an infection cause insulin resistance leading to diabetes in patients, right? So we were trying to identify if microRNAs have any role in this particular linkage or this particular pathophysiology. And we went about doing this by searching online databases of these various genome labs, and conducting a comprehensive literature review with the bioinformatics and structural analysis to examine our hypothesis, where we identified what sort of miRNAs are increased with hepatitis C infections, and what sort of miRNAs cause insulin resistance, right? So you can see a middle ground, HCVs with particular miRNAs raised, and then what miRNAs are associated with insulin resistance. So you find a common group, and maybe some of them are associated with it. So yeah, these are, let me just show you the figures. Yeah, so we found out that HCV infection alters the, Yeah. So HCV infection alters liver miRNA profiles. So these are miRNAs that are increased um, with HCV infections. So again, this was not done in the lab. This is based on, you see these reference number 92, 93, 95, 33, 36, 37. These are all papers that have already been published on PubMed or different platforms. We have accessed that data and determined these miRNAs have been proved to be associated through lab techniques um, with an HCV infection. And then we moved on to see which are increased in type 2 diabetes and hepatitis C infection both, and the targets of the miRNA 122, etc., which is found to be most commonly associated with HCV and type 2 diabetes. So essentially, that's what we did, and this is the basic study approach that we followed. Intrahepatic and circulating microRNA associated with HCV infection, and then circulating microRNA associated with insulin resistance. MicroRNA 122 was chosen for further analysis because it was the most strong proponent of both of these things. We analyzed the targets of miRNA 122 with Diana, MicroT, and M-fold. And then we evaluated targets tissue distribution, which causes this type 2 diabetes, and compare these targets with downregulated genes in insulin resistance that's found in the omnibus of NCBI. So yeah, this paper actually got published in the Journal of Cellular Molecular Medicine. But yeah, that's essentially what we did, and I would say a simpler study would possibly be, yeah, so this is a case report that I had done. I don't know if I have it. Oh, let's see. Were we able to get in touch with Dr. Parag?
Yeah, he's just joining in 5 minutes.
Perfect. Yeah, so just give me a second. Let's see. Yeah, this is a PubMed indexed case report that I had done maybe a year or two back. What is it? Complete femur, yeah. Oops. Yeah. So again, here we went on to mention it was a total femur arthroplasty where they basically replace the femur completely. So I know how that can be hard to imagine, where if there's a tumor or an infection, they take out the whole femur completely, replace it with a metallic implant, and attach the muscles individually to that metallic implant. So it works as a metallic femur, if you will. Yeah, so this is essentially a patient who suffered fracture after fracture and implant failure. And then this is essentially how you write a case report, where you have a small, so first we determined that yes, it was an important finding, and it's very, very rare to see complete total femur arthroplasty, which is total femur replacement essentially. So that's why we chose to have it as a case report, where we just have the small abstract. Abstract is essentially a small mini version of your total article, where if someone just goes through it, you can get most information from it. So where we have introduction. So introduction, you usually write what exactly is the current studies present in it, and what is known about this particular procedure, this particular pathology. Then you move on to the case report, which is actually what happened and what exactly went on in this particular case, and why do you think that it was worthy to be reported? And then the conclusion saying that TFA, actually total female arthroplasty, is a viable technique for salvage of lower extremity. So yeah, and you usually have these different case sort of pictures. You have discussion after you've described the surgical technique. If it's a unique surgical technique, you need to write down after incision exactly what you did, what you removed first, whether it was the distal part, the proximal part, which muscles you detached first, etc. It's just an example to get you guys more engrossed in the research world. Yeah, and these are just your references on what previous research has been done in this particular topic. And yeah, this is a case report. Would you guys like to see a systematic review now? Let's see this. Yeah. So for those of you guys who like to see a systematic review, we had done one on minimally invasive spine in the Indian Spine Journal. Yeah, where we essentially highlighted the current status of minimally invasive surgery. So I was working with Dr. Neil Anand, who is orthopedic surgeon in LA, and he asked me to help him write this paper because he was too busy with other projects. And essentially what we have done in this research article is you go on to introduce what the topic exactly is. So this was on a review of minimally invasive techniques for correction of adult spine deformity. So you go on to describe what adult spine deformity is, what MIS is, minimally invasive surgery, the types of minimally invasive surgery that are present today, the materials and methods that we use. So in a systematic review, you have to adhere by certain guidelines called the PRISMA guidelines, and you have to name which databases you targeted. So it could be Medline, PubMed, Cochrane, etc. You have to write down exactly what words you used while making that search, so that if someone else was to make the same search, they would come up with the same results, so that your research is reproducible. And the selection criteria, because you're never going to turn up with just 10 papers, you're going to turn up with hundreds of papers. Then you have to select a few from them. You have to explain why you selected them, any exclusion criteria that you had, why did you exclude them, the results you found, so indications of MIS you had, what the general sort of what the papers are saying about MIS, what the current understanding is of indications of minimally invasive surgery, what the comparison is of hybrid open techniques compared to the minimally invasive surgery in spine. You have to give a description of the flow of literature. So we had 476 total papers reviewed, 38 were filtered, and 27 full texts were evaluated after removing the repeats. So then we go on to describe what MIS is, what the current understanding is it cost effective, etc. And yeah, this is essentially a research study, a review, systematic review paper. So if you guys would like to access more papers that I've written or anyone else has written, you can go to ResearchGate on my profile, and you have a lot of free full text available. So you can just read a few of those papers, or you can go on, just search whichever topic you want, even if it's CVS or CNS or whatever it is, and search for different articles by different leading authors from there. They'll have a lot of free full text available. You don't have to pay for articles. We discuss about how to access these articles tomorrow in more detail. But yeah, you can definitely do that in the meanwhile for the next after the next 2 days, so that you are updated with whatever you're interested in. Because I personally feel that the best way to get into research is read articles, read what's being written in today's world and what other researchers are working on. If you can replicate that, replicate it in your college or institution, it may be a worthwhile effort, but you have to at least know what's going on before you move on. And the best way to learn certain nuances of research writing is by reading a paper. So I usually make it a habit to read at least 2 to 3 papers a week, um, no matter how busy I am, because it takes maybe 15-20 minutes to read one and just analyze what sort of stuff. So I'm particularly interested in orthopedics, and I usually just tend to read those. So Dr. Parag has joined us. I'm just admitting Dr. Parag right now. Dr. Parag, like I mentioned, has been in the research field for more than 15 years and has expertise in patents and innovation, and is going to be talking about the different sort of journals that are available, and how do you determine what a good journal is, and how to stay away from predatory journals. So we're just waiting on Dr. Parag to join us.
Hi, Aniruddh.
Hello, Dr. Parag. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Good, sir. So over to you. We have over 350 students with us today,
Great.
and they're waiting to hear from you.
Okay. So without making any delay, we can start.
Sure, sir.
So you have to enable me to share my
yes,
screen.
I'm sorry. I'm just having a difficult time doing that for some reason.
If you make me one of the hosts, then
yeah, I think I'll just do that. Yeah, so done.
so warm regards from Mumbai. Aniruddh has been speaking with you, and he has been telling you about the research methodologies and how to publish, the methods of publication. So I will first cover the topic of the articles and the publications, what it means for authors and what it means for the readers. So firstly, for the readers, it's the what a journal article means in terms of its various uh, the subheadings and the headings, how to quickly read the article, how to gain maximum from the article, why publish, and steps of finding a right journal. So these are always the priority of the readers. So I hope that you, being medical students, apart from your books, you are reading the journal articles as well. So any reader who picks up a journal has these demands or the priorities. He wants an authoritative quality articles. He wants an ease of access. It should be available maybe on the phone, on the smartphone or a tablet. It should get rapidly delivered. It should be in the convenient format where he can copy, paste, underline, highlight. It should have good linking, what we call as the clustering, low, or it should be free of cost, and it should give up-to-date information. Any one-day match, we don't want a score of 2 hours back. We want a score of the recent over. So we want all the information up to date. And what a journal article means for the author, he sees a quality and speed. He sees a referring speed, how quickly the article gets referred to, referring standard, and most importantly, the journal reputation. Next is the priority is of editorial board. whether it's either in the print format or the online format, and the publication services, which includes an important part as a student of the publication fees. So having known this different behavior patterns of authors and readers, it's very difficult to strike a balance between the demands by the author and the reader. So authors want to, in short, read, and the authors want to, in short, want to publish more and more. The readers want to gain maximum by reading less and less. So the journals have adapted their styles to fit that. Now coming for the readers. So why we need articles? Why can't we just have the textbooks? The textbooks are to give you a knowledge, a bookish knowledge, but to make the chapters in the textbook, to write the text in the textbook, you need an evidence. So if I throw this open question that what is the length of this line, just by looking at the line, no one will be able to tell what is the length of the line. So you need to have a scale, a scale to put it parallel to the line, and then you come to know that the length of the line is 8.7 centimeters. So just this is exactly the case of the clinical problem and the evidence. We get the knowledge from the books that it is a clinical problem, but what to do in this clinical problem is the it is the knowledge you gain from the evidence, and this evidence is published and is generated by the articles in the journals. So it's very important to refer to journals to look at the absolute evidence. Then those who are in the internship, or those who are in the those who have studied their PSM, so they must have studied this pyramid of evidence, which looks little boring, but it is the crux of all the research publications. So if you see the level 1, which is divided into 1A, 1B, and 1C, is the absolute and ultimate level of evidence. So they are meta-analysis, they are RCTs, then level 2A, 2AB, level 3A, and what we normally end up publishing in our Indian medical schools are the case reports and the reviews. They are not so high levels of evidence. They are inferior quality of evidence, but it's a good start. So one should feel encouraged to publish more and more. So why you want to read? You should read so that you get the current knowledge. It has a raw data which gives you access to their actual numbers of the researchers. You can replicate that. It shows logic that the researchers have found that you should also get this results. Now, coming to a web page of a standard journal, what information you can get from the journal? Of course, the name. It is a monthly review since these many years. It has 12 issues per year. Its ranking is, will come to that, is number 1 in amongst all the journals which are of the domain of surgery. Of course, editor, ISN, and all that. And it has impact factor of 7.49, which is a very good impact factor for a surgical journal. Then this is the current issues, and you can always go to online first. So this is the you will find some articles which are already published online, but they have not yet been assigned a journal issue. Now, having known the journal, we move inside and we select the article. So if we select this article, what is the grammar of this article headline? So of course, it is published in this journal, BMC Medicine. It is open access. So open access means when the journal is accepted by the journal, they charge hefty fee to the authors so that they make it open for all to access the journal free of cost. Otherwise, if you want to access the full text of a journal article, you will be demanded some fee which is in the range of $30 to $50 per article. Then it's a cross mark, so it is the citing and the referencing marker. These are all the authors, and he is the author which is who is to be contacted if you have any queries about the journal. This all 123 they are their institute where they belong to. Then it's a research article, it's not an original article. And this is how a typical journal article will be cited. First author et al means all, the journal name, this is the year of publication, and this is the DOI number. So it is the Aadhaar card number of the article. So if you search with this number on the PubMed or on the Google, you will land up with this page where you will get this article open. So this is unique to each and every piece of article published. Now, this part of the journal we normally don't give any attention to, but we should know what it is, and it is important part. So it is abbreviations. So all the short forms used, what we don't understand in the main text, we should come down here and we should look into it. And funding. So if some journal article talks about one particular instrument and it comes to a very to a conclusion that the instrument is very effective, and the study is completely funded by the parent company of the instrument, it may be it may create some doubt that it may be a biased study. Then availability of the raw data, on request authors can submit you the raw data. On the author's contribution, so who contributed which part of the journal, the idea, the draft, the collection of the data, analysis, and then manuscript writing. Then the competing interest, so they declare the conflict of interest over here. The consent for publication is not applicable because there are no human subjects in that. Ethics approval not applicable because there are no human or animal subjects in that. And the transparency declaration, so it is a declaration that these authors say that we have published our honest work, and these are the author details where they actually work. Received, accepted, and published online. So this gives the average time or the time frame this article has spent in the office of the editor. Then what does the journal article comprise of? A title, abstract, introduction, material, methods, results, discussion, references, acknowledgement, source of fundings, and these are the extra things: images, tables, videos, URL links, and some some of the journals they ask for a take-home message. So this is a brief description what each section means for a reader of an article. A title, it clearly describes the content, authors who have contributed. Abstract, it describes what was done. These are the key words with which you can search for the similar articles on the PubMed. The introduction explains the problem. Methods explains how the data was collected. Results, discussion, it discusses the implications of these findings over the literature and over the clinical problem. Acknowledgements, who have contributed but not as an author. References and appendices. So having known this, do we always go by the same sequence of when we read the article? No, we go with this sequence. And this sequence is important because you have to quickly browse through the articles to know which is of your interest and which is of not your interest. So you see that the title, you read each and every word of the title because it gives the first impression about the article, whether it's of your interest. Abstract, conclusion, and then you ask yourself, is this article of my interest? Then you go to introduction and discussion. It discusses the clinical problem and the review and the state of the art up till the research work was done. So the introduction will tell the history of the same topic. Discussion will tell what is happening in this article vis-a-vis the history, and what is happening in this article vis-a-vis the current articles published, what we have referenced, and what is the direction for the future. So reading introduction and discussion can give you a good authority, good knowledge over that whole topic. Then if you are interested in the research and if you want to use the methodology and the results of the article for your research purpose, that is something like when you do a thesis or when you are writing an article, then you need to go into methods and results in depth. Otherwise, it is more of a technical thing, and you should have a decent knowledge of biostatistics to go through the results as well. Then abstract, it summarizes, it's mostly only part which is read, but don't act on the abstract alone. And nowadays they are, all the journals are asking for a structured abstract. Introduction, what is the context, with what thought the authors thought of a study, with what thought they planned the study, the gaps in the literature, what we always call as the black line and the gray line, the gray zone. We always have to target the gray zone. We have to identify which is the gray zone. So what we call it, the gaps in the study. Then the research question, and the relevance of this field, of this topic in the recent field. Method, exactly the methods applied to gather the data, to analyze the data, statistical methods used, but it is not a cookbook. It is not telling you to do your study the same way. It is specific for that article, but it is of course replicable. In the discussion, they first interpret their results. They claim whether they have answered the research question, whether they could meet the goals. It often includes the strengths and limitations of the study, which is important. If you are strong in your interpretation of the data, you can point out a limitation of the study which has not been mentioned, and it can be a letter to editor, and it can be taken as a publication, of course as a low evidence, but it is a publication. Then it interprets an implication of the context, and then it raises the controversies of the study, and it always gives a future direction. Results, of course, the data, table, graphs, and statistics, and the references. So I would say when the authors make very tall and very dogmatic claims in their discussions, one should go back and check the references they have referenced these claims with. It gives a fair idea that they are not misinterpreting the references. Then now we come to what it is for authors to have the journal article. So the first thing first, you have to find out a journal, whether it's a general interest journal or a specific reader base, international or a regional, national, coming from an institute or a national society. It's a journal. What is the peer review policy of the journal? Are they accepting it just like that, or every article is put through a peer review? So I will come to the process of the peer review. What is the submission process? Their specifications for the authors, what they want, the format of the article, and do I want to publish as open access? If I want to publish as open access, what are the publication fees? Usually they are quite a bit, because they have to make it free of cost for all the readers. Then a very important thing is journal metrics, like it is the measure of reputation of the journal, and having an article published in a journal with high impact factor is of thing of great pride. And also we'll come to this altmetric attention score. So now this is the impact factor what I was talking about, and how it is calculated. We will also come to that. Before that, where to find the instructions to authors? So always, this is just a web page of one of the journal we commonly read to and commonly refer to, but every journal web page will have for authors information for authors and language editing services. So if you click on that, it will open a PDF or a complete detailed description what they actually want your article to be like in the format, in terms of fonts, spacing, margins, headings, word limit, a type of the additional files of the diagrams, images, graphs, everything, every detailed work, every details of the work to be submitted is already mentioned there for the authors, for all the journals. This is overview of a peer review process. So this is like any article submitted. So you first submit the paper, you immediately get the confirmation of the receipt if it is in the format they have asked for. The article will first go through the scrutiny of the editor. The editor has a right, if he thinks the article is of no worth, or it is making it is not meeting the standard of the journal, it will be outrightly rejected by the editorial office itself. If he decides to review, he will assign the reviewers. Normally there are 2 or 3. At times they will ask you to suggest the names of the reviewers. If the reviewers accept the invitation, they complete the review within a normally time frame of 2 weeks time. They give their verdict, revise, accept, or reject. These things are notified to the author. The author has option of not to submit again or revise, and then the revision is received, revision is rechecked, and then the reviewer will again check whether it is as per the demands made by him and other reviewers, and then it is accepted, and then the paper is sent to the publisher. So there are various publishing house, Elsevier, Science Direct, LMW. So how to find the journal in which you want to publish? So of course, the field of interest. You can't publish an ophthalmology article in a New England Journal of Medicine or the Annals of Surgery. It has to be the field of interest, because it has to address the readership of the journal. It is a peer reviewed or not. So to make the maximum impact of your article, it should be in a peer reviewed and indexed journal. So index means there are the various methods of indexing. We'll come to that. A journal should have impact factor. If it is more, all the more better. And do they accept the article, the type of articles I'm writing? It means many journals these days, they are not accepting the case reports. So we should check whether they accept the case reports or not. Sorry. Yeah. So all of you can take a snapshot of this. These are various journal finding tools which will help you, which will ask for some information. Then you can find out the journals which of your interest. This is quite interesting. Think, check, and submit. It, I think, by the Elsevier. So they will ask you some information. They will check whether these things match, and then you can submit. Now, coming to impact factor, I'm sure you must have heard about this impact factor. It evaluates a scholarly worth of a journal and article. It ranks the journal in that discipline. It helps you decide where to publish article in the best possible maximum impact factor. It is given by JCR. It is the average number of citations. So if I am writing an article, I quote some text from your article. So I cite your article in the reference. So that is called a citation. So it is the average number of citation in a year given to those papers in a journal that were published during the 2 preceding years. So if A is the number of times that all the articles published in a journal, XYZ journal, that particular journal, in the calendar year of 18 and 19, they were cited, and B is the total number of citable items published in these 2 calendar years, then we get the impact factor of 2020 as A upon B. So these are the items cited and these are the items published. So cited items upon the citable items. Then this is a new score which gives the weightage or the impact of the article in a less scientific and more social world, like the social media outlets, blogs, and publicity. This each color represents each type or each social media. So a score is derived from the volume, source, and the authors. To give you a list, we have this top 20 medical and surgical journals of the last year. So this is the medical journal. These are the surgical journal which I showed you the web page of. This is available on net. So how to decide the authorship sequence? First author, he does the maximum of the work, he writes the draft. The last author is typically, he establishes the line of inquiry. He is usually the HOD or the mentor in the whole group, and others depending on their contribution. But in the normally first and second authors are the ones who get the maximum credit for the article. If you want to say that I have so many publications, they will first ask you the first author publications. You can always say first and second author publication. They are the ones which are of more worth. Then H index, this is the index for the authors. It gives a rough idea how much your articles were cited and how much your articles were published. So it is for the particular author. Now coming to this PubMed, Central, and Medline. These are the terms normally used by all interchangeably, but they are not the same. So PubMed is a database which is very wide database. PubMed Central is only the free articles from this PubMed which are in the PubMed Central, and Medline, which is the most prestigious, it is the journal citation database of National Library of Medicine USA. So very few are Medline indexed. All Medline indexed are indexed in the PubMed, and only those which are free in PubMed are in PubMed Central. There are also other databases like Web of Science, Scopus, Embassy. So how to find a journal? So you go to this web page, pubmed.gov. You find the name of the topic which you want to find the journals of. You get a list of journals, and to be precise, you have to find here journals. So you click here so that it takes you to only journals. So you have chosen one journal, Hepatology, Medicine, and Policy. It gives a complete kundali of the journal. It's a title, the year of start publication, year of end. So this journal is no more published. It started from England, but it ended 3 years back. It's in English. This is the indexing. This is the ISSN. These are the electronic links. It's indexed in PubMed and PubMed Central. It is not indexed in Medline, not currently indexed in Medline. These are the topics where they cover. Sorry, and then this is also like the barcode of the journal where each thing means a specific thing. So what is meant by the predatory journals? So I'm sure those who have made attempt to publish, they will get such emails that we invite the articles, please send your articles to us. Then at the end they will ask for the hefty fees. So none of the standard, let me be very clear, none of the standard journals will directly contact the authors for the articles. They have plenty of works to publish and reject. So don't fall into the prey. They are like scams. So a word on the plagiarism. I hope you have come across this term and you know this. The use of others' published or unpublished ideas, words, and others' intellectual property will come to the intellectual property without attribution, permission, and presenting them as new, original, rather than derived ideas or of the existing source is called a plagiarism. So plagiarism can be of ideas and plagiarism can be of text. So when 6 or more consecutive words are copied in the continuous set of 30 words, the online plagiarism software will detect it to be positive for the plagiarism. So when you write the article, it's very important to take care of this. And there are online services which where you submit your draft, they will check it for plagiarism. So if it is less than that, then you can safely submit to the journal, rather than the journal telling you that your article has too many copied text from other articles. So now coming to the last slide, you all are going to be the doctors of tomorrow. You all will have established clinical practice. So you as a doctor will be known in your hospital, but if you want to be known outside your hospital, patients and city, you have to publish. Only then you will attend the conferences and meet the new people. So we all, we Indians as such, are not so good in publishing, but it's high time we should publish, because it is very important. So publish or perish. So that's the end of my first talk. Back to Aniruddh.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. We just field any questions that anyone has. Uh, uh, and after this, sir will be moving on to the last topic for the day, which is intellectual property and patents and innovation. So till then, if you guys have any questions about journals or anything of the sort, we'd love to answer them before we can move on to the last talk of the day.
I had a question, sir.
Yes.
For medical students, I mean, as second year, third year medical students, when we perform research and we come up with a paper, I mean, obviously we cannot, I don't think we can reach out to these big names. But what if we want to get it published in a PubMed index journal? So which one would be a very feasible option for medical students?
So I would say that those who are genuinely interested in publishing, see, no one knows about publishing from the beginning. You have to learn it. So how to write the text and all that. So you should identify a faculty in your medical school who is publishing, who is interested in publishing, who is interested in hand holding. You first identify the topic, do a review. Reviews are nice to publish because for reviews you don't need the data. You should identify a gray zone, a gray area, do in-depth study by accessing the articles published on those on that area, and then you can come out with your systematic review. And you have to, there is a style to write the text wherein you have to write it in a way the journal houses will accept it. So you should take help of a medical faculty in your medical school to make those first few steps for publishing. And again, depending on the topic, you have to choose the journal accordingly.
So there's another question. Yeah, sorry. Only those that are indexed in Medline are reliable is the question. Are the articles indexed in Medline reliable more than others, or?
So you can say that because I have published, so I know those who have been able to publish in the index and the Medline journals, they have gone through a lot of scrutiny, very high level scrutiny, and only when their research methodologies are correct and the scientific claims they make in the article on the basis of their results are true to the fact, only then they are accepted. So we can't say that that is the only marker of reliability, but many good data, they cannot see the light of publishing in an index medline journal because of some lapses in the data collection, because they could not do it prospectively and they had to do it retrospectively. They could not collect the data and randomize it. So it is a poor quality research which actually ends up in a non-indexed, non-PubMed index journals.
Mhm.
They all first must have tried in this high quality journals, and after getting rejected by this, they have published in a lower impact factor and lower index journal. So you should take those data in their actual face value.
Okay, fair. Okay, so I think that about covers the questions that we have. We can start with your next topic, sir.
Okay. So this many of you may find this little offbeat. Um, just a reality check. You have not entered an engineering field, but you have entered a medical field. But still, this topic is relevant for you. Believe me, this is not talked about, but we as doctors have so much to do in this field, and we must explore this. It is our domain. It is our expertise. We should do so many things in this IPR, that is intellectual property rights. So if you have anyone would have observed, um, these innovations and you, it is like a tagline of a famous company, Philips. And why I've chosen Philips, I don't have any conflict of interest with Philips, but Philips is one of the companies which holds maximum number of medical patents. So IPR, intellectual property rights, there are various areas of IPR: patents, trademarks, geographical indications, industrial designs, layouts and designs, plant protection, and copyright. So believe me, after you have listened to this lecture, you will find that in our day-to-day life at home and in the hospital, so many IPR issues which we actually come across. Just excuse me. So the patents, designs, trademarks, copyrights, and geographical indications, they are the main domains. Patents are the inventions. They are the technical solutions to a technical problem. Industrial designs, they are new shapes. The trademarks, which are used for marketing, a logo like Adidas. Uh, the copyright, which is the artistic creation of the text or the artwork, and geographical indications uh, like the Banarasi silk or Kanchipuram, something like that. So to give you an example how the IPR in the stethoscope has evolved over the years, I don't know whether any of you will be able to identify, but this where the stethoscopes used maybe 150 years ago to listen from here and to put this to the belly of the patient. Then we got evolved and we are using this telescope now. And now the most recent is these are the pieces, and you can hear them in your uh, uh, earbuds by Wi-Fi. So all this inventive process has gone through the steps in the patents, designs, trademarks, copyrights. So all the instruction manuals, they are under copyright. All the marketing logos like the Litman, they are under a trademark. All the change in the designs, they are under designs. And a very inventive step to move from this wooden cylinder to a structure which is completely different with a tube and with two earpieces and one chest piece is a patent. So what is patent? What is invention? So invention means a new product or a process involving an inventive step and capable of industrial application. So if you make something but which has no industrial potential application, it can't be patented. So it has to be novel, new, which is not a copy of anything. It has to be absolutely new, and there are examiners in the patent office who will check that it's a new and novel process. It has to have the enough inventive step that it should it should uh, it should be an enough leap of technical advancement to call it an invention, and it should be capable of industrial application. So to give you a small example of the ballpoint, there are this many number of patents granted in the US Patent Office for each of these points, each of these parts of the ball pen. So what does the patent rights mean? So if person XYZ gets the patent rights of object ABC, so it has the so they are country specific. So I get patent in India. So the government of India has granted for an invention to the inventor or his assignee. This is a limited period of time, and more importantly, it has excluded all others from making, using, offering for sale, selling, importing any of the products covered under the patent. It excludes all others, and it has give exclusive rights to that inventor. So these rights can be shared, can be licensed or sold. So if I have the rights, I can give Aniruddh the rights to manufacture on my behalf, and I give him the license to manufacture, and I give him the license to sell on my behalf. I will get the royalty for it. They are the rights to initiate legal proceedings if a person ABC manufactures this without my permission. I can take him to the court of law for infringement. These rights are only for 20 years, and after 20 years it becomes open to public domain, means anyone can use it. They are patents are open to public use after they expire. So why has this patent system been started? To encourage the inventions, to get the patents worked in India. We have to get more and more inventions for utility in India, to have the new inventions and the new products at the affordable prices. It doesn't just allow the importation, means I have the patent, I will not manufacture in India, but I'll just import at a higher price. This is not allowed by the patent law. They have to be, if you have to sell in India, you have to sort of manufacture in India. uh, the government keeps the rights of the patents related to public health and nutrition. They can release the patent in the public interest, wider public interest. They can transfer or disseminate the technology, mutual advantage to the producers and the users, and it strikes a good balance between the rights and the obligations. So just for the interest, this is the first patent granted in the Indian Patent Office, an efficient Pankha pulling machine in the royal courts. This statement by Galileo Galilei. So all of you know who is Galileo, and in 1594 in the Roman Empire, the not the Roman but Italy, the Venetian Patent Act was passed, and his request for the patent coincides so much with the modern law. He says that I have invented a highly profitable machine which can pump and irrigate the land easily and inexpensively. So it is a definitive inventive step, and continuously ejects waters from 20 nozzles. This invention is mine, so I have the absolute right for it with great labor and investment. Majesty may kindly give me the rights for 40 years, or the period which the Majesty would decide anyone, to prevent anyone other than me, my descendants, or the person authorized by me from making, using, or modifying this machine. So he is wanting the exclusive patent rights. Anyone who breaks the rule will be imposed a fine, which is the patent infringement, a part of which will be paid to me as compensation. With this favor, I will serve your majesty for more faithfully to create further inventions. So it is an incentive for the for doing more and more inventions for the inventor. So these are the various categories of the medical patents. This chemical substances and the pharma, it's a huge field. Then medical devices. So practically everything, implantable devices, stents, tools, surgical instruments, IV bags, tubics, everything is covered by the patents. Healthcare information in the hospital and the technologies used can also be patented. But medical and surgical methods, like a method of doing asciatic tapping, is not patentable. But a sonography probe which assists in asciatic tapping is patentable. A sonographic probe which has got a needle which can be inserted safely, effectively, without injuring the structures and can do asciatic tapping is patentable. But the method as such is not patentable. But there are few countries, including USA, which even allow the medical procedure, but India doesn't allow it. Then regenerative medicine is a huge field in cancer healing and lifestyle diseases. And we'll now come to the things which are not patentable. So please don't confuse about the things which are patentable and which are not. So these are the things which are not patentable. An invention which is contrary to the established law. So if I say that I have chosen a machine which is anti-gravity, it is not patentable because we know that gravity is the natural law. Then something which will be used commercially to loot the public or cause a serious harm, a gambling machine, a human cloning process will not be patentable. A mere discovery, that is a formulation discovery or a mere scientific discovery, will not be patentable because we know that these microorganisms, nucleic acids, they already exist, but we just discover. You don't invent new, you just bring it to the public that they exist. They are not patentable. Then a new form of the substance, that is isomers and all that, they are not patentable, but they can be patented if you are able to show that the new form is more effective, significantly more effective. A new form is significantly more safe, then you can always patent them. A substance which is a mere admixture. So paracetamol plus ibugesic forming combiflam, a new drug which is more effective, is not patentable. Now coming to the known devices, the assembly of instruments is not patentable. Anything related to agriculture and horticulture is not patentable. Then any process for medicinal, surgical, curative, prophylactic, diagnostic, therapeutic is not patentable, but the instruments or the hardware to be used for these methods can be patentable. Then anything on the animals is not patentable, that is cloning and the microorganisms. A mathematical process is not patentable. Then just coming to the end of it, the atomic energy related things are not patentable because the government wants to have the exclusive control on those things. Then what is traditional knowledge? So Department of Ayush, we have a long history of herbs and the animal products being used for medicinal purpose. That is our traditional knowledge. And many of the Western companies were illegally using this traditional knowledge for their medicinal formulas. So the government has made a traditional knowledge digital library where they have the database of all the know-hows up till now, and using this database we have been able to revoke the patent. So can you believe they had ask for the patent about the turmeric, basmati, neem oil, the things which we use daily in our kitchens. So just imagine the turmeric at the rate of 40,000 rupees per kilo if it is patented. So coming to a very important topic of artificial intelligence, you guys in your future practice of medicine are going to use and develop and contribute to artificial intelligence in a very big way in terms of drug discovery, diagnostic, treatment monitoring, assisting in the operations, record management. So to give an idea, between these 4 years, this data is not updated, but must have increased. The companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple, they have filed for 300 patent applications related to healthcare, like your smart watches. They all have gone through this process of the patent application, and these are the game changers in the future. So where do we stand as a country? We lag behind quite a lot. There has been good increase in the output in the research, but it has not reflected in the number of publications, the patent applications. So very minuscule part of the patents filed in India are by the universities, and we have to increase in the patent filing to safeguard our knowledge. Why students have to learn about the IP? So students, you have the curiosity, you are learning that topic for the first time, you are facing that clinical problem for the first time, and I believe there will always be a new way to approach the clinical problem or the clinical issue if it is given to a student. Like we used to have this saying in the medical college, if any difficult case is not getting solved, give it to medical student for history taking. They will split the hair and they will take a history and you will get a diagnosis. So there is always a new approach by a new generation to looking at look at the clinical problem. So you must study the intellectual property as a students, and it should be made a part of academic curriculum. It is really high time. You must have the foundational awareness about what is patentable, what is not. If you have any idea how to conceive that idea from that the idea to a patent, who will help you, where to approach. You have to have the culture. So if you know what it takes to get a patent, you will never infringe or copy anyone's patent. So it is the need to develop that culture of mutual respect, and it can be a life changer also, because if you crack upon some patent and you get exclusive rights, you get the royalty, and it can be also very much rewarding from the financial point of view. But all this needs collaboration. So if you need to collaborate, please collaborate. Don't be afraid that I will leak my ideas and then what will happen. There are of course ways to collaborate, but you must collaborate to get better results. To give you a rough idea about this medical device industry in India, it's a huge industry. It's going to grow very big by the end of 2025 in 3-4 years. These are all the contribution by each country for the medical industry patents in India. And you can see still it contributes very less amount, very less number proportion of the total patents filed in India. So there is a huge scope for this 2% to go to 20%. Then we can have more filing about the medical instruments and the medical related patents. These are more for the academic. So this brings to the end of my topic. So this is the take-home message. We have to let's innovate and enrich. It's nice to have IP awareness, intellectual property awareness from early on. Even the child, as Even the child as young as 4 or 5 years can apply a patent. There is no harm. We as a doctors, we are into the thick of the clinical problems, and we know how to solve them. We know how to find a solution to them. But if you have ideas, you have to have awareness to get from your idea to the patent granted. So you have to follow the IP rules. You have to apply early on. Medical devices, pharma, AI, and informatics are going to be the hot topics for patent filing in the medical field. And wherever you are, in whatever institutes you are, in whatever capacities you are, please make a petition, please make a very strong request to all your authorities to introduce intellectual property curriculum in your institutes. Every institute, like all the IIMs and IITs, they have IP cells where the like-minded experts are there to give you ideas about how to go from your concept of invention to the reality. So each institute should have this its IP cell, IP policy. If that invention is made in the institute, uh, what will be the percentage of the inventor, what will be the percentage of the institute sharing the inventorship and the royalties. So all those things are many intricacies of the topic. I just tried to stimulate you. I just tried to give you the oversight of how this IP looks for the medical field. And as a student, I'll be very glad if uh, some of you become the IP experts in the medical fields and practice actually IP in the medical fields. With that, I end my talk, and back to you, Aniruddh, for any questions.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very informative because we as medical students usually have very little information about IT and IP,
Yeah,
and we're usually
no one
not,
talks about it.
yeah, we usually not taught about it. So if there are any questions for Dr. Parag, please do let us know in the YouTube comment section. Um,
Yeah, Miss, I think I have 4 5 minutes to answer a few questions. If there are any
yeah.
live questions, I can answer. My battery is running low. I forgot to get the charger. So.
How about the MSN team? Do you guys have any questions for sir?
There is one question that was posed. These journals, when if they reject the paper, do they explain why they're rejecting it, and do they make those recommendations?
Yes. So all the peer reviewers, they are asked to comment on the journal. They will when they will do the peer review, they will enlist, they will enumerate, and they will also write in details about the lacunae, why they are recommending the journal to reject the article. uh, Taking clue from that, you can do the corrections and then send the article to a journal which is little low ranking, so that your chances of getting published are higher.
So there's one question. Actually, suppose there's a student who is from a college from where he or she cannot find a mentor for research because maybe the faculty is not much interested in research. So in that case, what should a student do, like to get
Yeah,
mentors
so
from outside?
I congratulate Aniruddh for giving them a platform of PubGeek, where he can be a link between the students interested and the mentors. So um, he knows at least with 4 or 5 mentors from different fields who can help depending on your topic of interest, and they can always collaborate online, and that all can happen. Like uh, we have to publish. There is no other way. Publish or perish. You believe me, in 10 15 years the academic um, quotient of the country will increase, and wherever you will go for application, They will look at your publication. They will judge you from the publication. So it's a good time for all the medical students to think about the publishing and the IPR.
Absolutely, sir. That's what I mentioned, that they could possibly contact researchers on ResearchGate or through multiple platforms where, if you have someone living in the local area where
Yeah.
get in touch with them, they're definitely helpful. So there don't seem to be any other questions, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
We're so
Welcome.
honored to have you here, sir.
Always pleasure, Aniruddh. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Take
Okay.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
I log off. Yeah. Bye. Bye.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. All the best to all. Take care in COVID
Thank you,
times.
sir.
Yeah. Bye.
So thank you everyone for attending our workshop today. We'll be sending the attendance link on the WhatsApp groups. So make sure you guys don't leave them. Before you log off, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be posting this recording of this meeting on the IMA-MSN Telangana YouTube channel as well as the PubGeek channel. So make sure you guys see it. If you weren't able to attend the whole thing today and want to attend with us tomorrow, make sure you mark your attendance through the attendance sheets that we'll be sending on the groups. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 p.m. All right. I think that's the end. We should end. All right.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. See you guys tomorrow.
You guys.